Happy 2025, everybody. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the story of Lost and Found. It's pretty crazy. There's a lot of ups and downs. In February, I'll be starting the 13th year of my vintage and antique resale and furniture painting business. And we're going to look at all of those 12 years before, lessons that I learned, and how those can apply to you and your own business. So I've broken up these past 12 years into little chunks of time. They're each going to have their own name, their own theme, and then there's going to be a lesson that I think we can take away from this season of my business. I want to start before we get started though with just kind of reminding you guys what my mission has always been. As an antique dealer, as a furniture painter, as a fusion mineral paint merchant, I started Lost and Found to bless my family. So I am married, I have 3 kids, and I wanted to have some way that I could use my creative skills and talents to just help provide a little bit for them. So a little bit of context, back in 2012, when I started this, my husband was a pastor at a church. We were living in a pretty affluent Dallas suburb. And if you know anything about being a pastor, you know that you're not necessarily getting paid a lot of money. So that was definitely the case with us. It was tough because the people around us, our friends, the rest of our congregation, that wasn't really their life. Again, they were pretty affluent, but because we were living on this ministry salary, our life looked pretty different. I was always looking for ways that I could help supplement our family's income. It was also super important to me though, that I be able to stay home with my kids. I don't fault anybody, any mom who works outside of the house at all. Just for me, we had made a decision. I wanted to be home with them. So whatever I was going to do really needed to be flexible so we could try and make that work. So we're going to start with the chunk of years, 2012 to 2015. And I'm calling these my figuring it out years. So at the start of 2012, I was out shopping at my favorite local antique mall, and I had been on the waiting list for approximately 2 years there, you guys. I was 6 months pregnant with my 3rd kid, and I just was up there and I thought, I'm going to ask again. I had a friend who was a vendor and I kind of dropped her name, and it was like, lo and behold, all of a sudden there was a space for me. A little sermon in a sermon, a side note here. If you're on a waiting list at an antique mall, don't assume that they're ever actually going to call you. Sometimes I don't even know if the waiting list concept even exists. So just go back and keep asking. This day, I'm sitting there pregnant, they've got a spot, and I'm like thinking, I better take this right now, or it might be 2 more years before I get a chance. So I take the lease home, talk to my husband about it, and he's like, great, let's do it. So I signed that lease. It was for a tiny little spot upstairs in the back, about the size of a jacuzzi bathtub. Not big at all. The ceilings were really low, couldn't put a whole lot in there, but I was gonna give it a go. It cost me $60 for my first month's rent, and then I maybe took another $150 and went and bought some stuff, got some stuff for my house. My mom gave me some stuff, and I made it as cute as I could do and put it in there. From the get-go, this had to make me some money, and I think that's why my business has always operated a little bit differently than others. I didn't have the luxury of like just this being a hobby and it not really doing anything for me. Like I didn't have extra money to just kind of play around. It needed to produce something for me. I didn't know how much it could produce, but it needed to produce something. What I did that whole first year was I would get my check, I would take it and cash it. I would take $60 in cash and I would pay my rent for the next month. I would take 30, 40, 50 bucks, set it aside to go back to the flea markets to buy some more inventory. And then the rest of it, what was left, I would roll it up and I would put it in a jar up in the top of my closet. And after about a year of doing that, I had 500 bucks in my jar. That was a lot of money for me at that time. You may have heard me talk about this before, but another main goal that I had in the season was I really wanted to take my kids to Disney World, and it wasn't gonna be there. The money was not gonna be in the budget to do it. So I was hoping after a while I'd have enough money in that jar of cash in my closet to pull it out. And crazy enough, by October of 2014, I did. We went to Disney World, and like 75% of that trip for our family of 5 was paid for by money that I had saved up from my booth business, which to this day, I just still feel like is pretty awesome. So the start of 2013, I got invited to move downstairs into a bigger booth space that was kind of by the front door. It was terrifying because I think it was going to be like $165 a month of rent, but I felt like it would allow me to expand. And so I said, sure, let's do it. That was the same period of time when chalk paint was really kind of hitting the market. We had somebody selling Annie Sloan in my mall. So I started buying paint from her and painting furniture. I also decided at the start of 2013 to start a blog. Didn't really know how to do it. My husband helped me. We kind of got this thing built. It wasn't very fancy, and I just started writing on there. And I started chronicling the furniture that I was painting and these makeovers and trying to grow this blog and get traffic to this. And didn't really have an end goal for it, but just thought, you know, let's see where this goes. All right, so the lesson from these years are like, I just had to give it a go. You ever heard the phrase, fortune favors the bold? Typically, people that are willing to try things do better in life, because you have to just try something sometimes. You don't know. Like, sure, it may not work, but it might work. And if you don't ever try, then you never get any of those might works. You're just trying to kind of manage the money, the in and out, buy the inventory that I needed, find places to source inventory, figuring out a blog, figuring out how to paint furniture. You know, it's okay to not know everything when you start. And to know that those early years of your business, like, you're gonna make some mistakes, things aren't gonna look so great sometimes, but that's just all part of the process. Okay, my next chunk of time is years 2015 to 2018, and I'm calling these my hustle and grind years. Years 1, 2, and 3, we're figuring it out. Years 4, 5, and 6 is when I really started to see some significant growth. So the biggest thing that happened in this chunk of time was that I started selling Fusion mineral paint. I believe it was January of 2015. I was reading another blogger that I often read and was looking at some furniture that she had painted in her blog post, and she started talking about this line of paint that was as easy to use as chalk paint, but you didn't have to wax it. And I thought, wow, that sounds kind of crazy. Never heard of that. That could be a big deal. Went to the Fusion website. They were accepting new retailers. I think they'd only been around maybe 6 months at this point. And on a whim, just put my information in there, thinking it'd be a week, 10 days, you know, before I heard back. And the next day they got back to me and they said, yes, we would love to have you. So I believe at the point then the buy-in was around $800. But then I had to get permission from my mall. Like, I wasn't sure if I could sell it there. They had sold some paint before, and all the paint vendors were currently gone. So they were like, sure, sell it. So by like March, I had it stocked in my booth space. And I mean, from day one, it just sold fantastic. Another big thing that happened was after I kind of got my first shipment in and got it on the shelves in my booth space, I emailed Fusion and I asked them if I could sell it online, because I was already blogging, doing these furniture makeovers. And I thought, well, I can just start using this paint. And they said, sure, why not? So I was like the second person, I think, in the entire United States to start selling Fusion online. We built this like really clunky online store that was connected to my blog. And that's what I started doing. I just emailed all my blog subscribers and I painted a desk and I said, this is the paint that I have. And if you want to buy it from me, you can, and I'll ship it to you. And it just went nuts. In that first year, 2015, I think I sold like $18,000 of paint online. And y'all, I had no idea what I was doing. I hadn't run an e-commerce store. I hadn't shipped stuff, especially like liquids that were heavy and could leak. So it was just me in my garage. We're still kind of figuring it out. 2015 was really kind of the year of the furniture painting. And all of a sudden I had all this paint at my disposal. So I started saying yes to like anything that anybody wanted me to paint. I said yes. I did lots of custom furniture painting projects. I painted several sets of cabinetry for people. I like customized and rebuilt a friend's kitchen island and painted that. Like, if it had to do with paint, you wanted me to do it, I was like, sure, I'll do it for you. Also in 2016, I released an ebook called Furniture Flipper, and it was a guide to starting your own furniture painting business. I put together that ebook and I started selling that in my online store. Again, another thing I didn't really know how to do, but I just figured it out. That was my first ever digital product to sell. In 2017, I decided to add another paint line into what I was selling. So I became a retailer for Miss Mustard Seeds. I had that in my booth space and I added it into my online shop. And then also in the summer of 2017, I moved to a second location. Now I had two paint lines, a digital product, an ebook, was still selling my old stuff, lots of painted furniture. My blog was rocking and rolling, working on social media, and things were just continuing to grow. At that second space, I was able to start teaching workshops. So now I had another revenue stream. I'd have people come in there. would teach them how to paint furniture. And like crazy enough, I still have some customers today that were customers that I got when I was teaching those workshops back in 2017. In 2018, my blog got monetized, which was a pretty big deal. And all of a sudden I was making like $700 and $800 a month on my blog, which was crazy. Like I had never made hardly any money on it. And there are bloggers that make, you know, $8,000 a month on their blog. I was really excited about 800. Like that was fantastic to me. The biggest thing that happened though during this period of time was that in the summer of 2017, as I was expanding to a second location and adding a new paint line, we learned that my husband was going to have to leave his church staff position at the end of the year. By the start of 2018, he was going to need to have a new job. We figured he'd be able to find something pretty quickly, but January 2018 came and went, and he did not have a new job. He did not have any leads, and it's too long of a story to get into, but he wound up being out of work for the remainder of that year. It was really kind of a pivotal time in our family. 2017, my youngest had started kindergarten, and we were looking ahead at this potential unemployment. And we had the decision to make. I could either kind of make this work and figure out some way to start paying myself regularly, like a paycheck, or I need to go get like a job because he was maybe about to be out of work. And we decided that things were going good so far. Let's stick with Lost and Found and let's see what we can do. That was the time that I actually invested in my first ever kind of paid business coaching. I purchased a course that was around $800, which was, again, a lot for me. It was for creative business owners, and it was on how to scale their business. That was the course that gave me the idea to launch my Booth Sellers Bootcamp online course. So I filmed those videos at the end of 2017 and I launched them for the first time in 2018. So really during that season, I just was looking around and realized that, you know, here I am year 6 in my business and I'm making this work and I'm kind of the sole provider for my family at this moment. I wanted to help other me's out there, because there wasn't a lot of other information there. I would talk to other like antique dealers, other people at my mall, other people that were painting furniture, and everybody was just kind of winging it, you know, or they were just like, it's just a hobby. I don't really need the money. I don't really know how much money I make. And I just kept thinking about like the position I was in and how this was putting food on our table. And I thought, what if there's somebody else out there like me and they need some help? And so that's what boot camp is. Like, here's my 6 years of business. Here's how I've built what I've built. Here's how I've done it. It's what worked for me. And if you want to take that and model something after that and have it work for you, go for it. Awesome. I want to help you do that. So a couple lessons from these hustle and grind years. Long-term success is not going to be built in a day. It took me until year 6 to get to the place where like I had enough revenue coming in constantly that I could feel confident that every month I could take a couple $1,000s out and pay myself. So if you're just starting out, you know, don't expect that immediately. It takes a while to kind of build these foundations. I've said it before and I'm going to keep saying it again. If you're in it for the long term, don't just focus on selling stuff, but actually focus on building a business. When I ended these years and I kind of looked around, that's what I realized was the difference between me and a lot of the other vendors and painters and things that I saw around me. They were just happy to get that check at the end of the month and sell some stuff. I was getting my check at the end of the month and selling some stuff, and I was trying to figure out how to take that money and reinvest it. And I was trying to figure out how to, you know, grow another revenue stream. And I was trying to figure out how can I work smarter, not harder, and get repeat customers. And like, I was always thinking like, I'm building something here that is going to last and it's going to be consistent, not just, sweet, I had a good month at the mall this month, right? So if you're in it for the long haul, like your mindset is going to have to be a little bit different. You can't just be chasing sales. You've got to learn how to build something that is sustainable, that can like regularly provide for you. And that really leads to the last lesson, which, you know, I got to a point here where I could only go so far on my own and I had to go find some help. There's going to be some point where you're going to get stuck and you're probably gonna need to invest in some help for your business. All right, so that takes us to years 2019 through 2021, and I'm gonna call these years the peak years. Get through the end of 2018, my husband did not find a new church job, but way too long of a story, he decides that he actually wants to start his own business. He'd been helping me with marketing, with building my website. He got certified through this marketing framework to be like a marketing consultant with them. So late 2018, he starts his own business. Still not making much money at it though, but he starts his own business. And we started 2019 and we're both self-employed. And we kind of looked around and said, you know what? I don't think we want to live in the Dallas area anymore. So we made the decision to move to Northwest Arkansas. Now, a huge goal that I had always had was to have my own brick and mortar store. I was selling 2 lines of paint. I forgot, I had also started selling redesign with Prima transfers, like I'd added those in. I was painting furniture. I had all this old stuff, vintage and antique items. I was running this 6-figure online store from my garage. And I wanted a place where that could all go live. I wanted a building that was my own, that I had the keys to, that I could go to anytime I wanted, where I could work on my stuff. I wasn't painting furniture in my living room. I was painting it like in a studio. That's what I wanted. And I couldn't afford it in Dallas. When we moved to Northwest Arkansas though, I found a place where I could afford it. So I moved into my own brick and mortar in the summer of 2019, and it was open by September of 2019. My store did well. I ended up adding a 3rd paint line. So I had 3 paint lines, and I had the redesign with Prima transfers. I had a line of stencils. I started teaching and hosting regular workshops where I'd have people in and I'd teach them how to paint their furniture. I was painting custom furniture for people, painting a lot of furniture myself and moving a lot of furniture through my store. And everything lived there. So I was doing all of my shipping from there. When I first moved to Northwest Arkansas, nobody knew who I was. So we were running a lot of Facebook ads. And, by January or February of 2020, I had kind of gained this audience as the place to go in Northwest Arkansas if you want to learn about painting furniture. Also, a cute little home decor store that's got some stuff that's different, vintage, and I had kind of built that for myself here. And then, of course, we all know what happened in March of 2020. That's when the pandemic hit. Things changed significantly from that point on. My local business suffered. I couldn't host my workshops anymore. Days would go by where I wouldn't have a single customer. Locally, it was very hard. My online business, however, went bananas. So this was the season when I would have 12 to 15 orders a day of Fusion paint in my online store. I was shipping, $10,000 to $12,000 a month of paint. This is when I started doing live sales on my Facebook page and everything would sell. I would take a picture of something that I found and it would be gone later that day. I mean, it was just bananas. And you guys, that's not reality. That was just this weird little period of time that we had because everybody was at home and they were online and they were buying stuff because they were bored. I was doing all of these live videos in my store, teaching people how to paint their products. And I would take those videos and download them and throw them over onto YouTube. And before I knew it, I had enough to monetize my YouTube channel. If you started a YouTube channel in 2020, you just benefited from this unnatural bump just because everybody was kind of stuck at home. So that's why I call those years the peak. I had a lot of money running through my store. I had 3 part-time employees that I managed. I had my own building that I had the keys to that I could go to anytime I wanted. I had a growing, almost to the point where I couldn't handle it, online store. Having that brick and mortar was the culmination of a goal that I had had for years. So here's the lessons from those peak years. So I needed the first 6 years in business to prepare me from those peak years of 7, 8, and 9. If I had opened my online store and had 12 to 15 orders a day, I would have folded. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't have systems in place. I need to manage my jacuzzi size booth before I could manage my 1,200 square foot store. I needed to know how to shop for a few wholesale items for my cutesy boutique booth before I went to Dallas Market and bought all this stuff for this huge store. You see what I mean? Like, I needed those smaller, more manageable practice years to prepare me for being the owner of a store and having employees and running payroll and knowing what to do with these thousands and thousands of dollars that were running through my business. So don't be afraid to start small. There's nothing wrong with starting small at a pace where you can manage and you can learn, so that when you get to your peak, you're not just going to fold. You're going to know how to handle it and how to manage that demand that you're seeing. So years 2022 and 2023 start kind of my next phase. And the reality is that sometimes you get everything you ask for, and then it ends up being not really what you want. So 2022 and 2023 are refining and refocusing years. COVID was a huge blessing to my online business, but personally, it was incredibly challenging. My kids got sent home from school. We were going through the quarantining thing. I would have to quarantine and close down my store. It just was a lot. It just was a lot. And again, my business was built to be a blessing to my family. And all of a sudden, it didn't really feel like even though it was making a lot of money, it didn't feel like a blessing to my family, because my kids were home trying to do this work on their computer, and I was at my store, and I'm at my store and nobody's even coming because people are just staying home. And had COVID not happened, I don't know if I would have closed it or not. Maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know, but it did. And I decided summer of 2021 that it was just more than what I wanted to manage. So I closed my store down, sold off a lot of my inventory, and moved back into a booth space at a local antique mall. By the middle of 2022, I had decided that having 3 paint lines was too much, and I got rid of one. And a few minutes later, I got rid of another, and I was back to just having Fusion mineral paint. By the middle of 2023, I made the same decision with the redesign with Prima transfers. All of this was like housed in my garage again, and it was just taking over my life. And so I decided, you know what? It's just more than what I want to manage. I was refining what I wanted to do and really trying to focus in on who I wanted to be. It was getting really hard to find furniture, good used furniture to paint. It was taking me a lot of time. I was wasting a lot of time on Facebook Marketplace, driving around to thrift stores to find one thing every couple of weeks. And so I really started scaling back just in general how much furniture I was painting, and was mostly just thrifting and having small little vintage items and less big furniture. So at one point, I even moved out of my bigger booth space and I moved into a small booth space. I've got a whole other video on that too. It's called Why Did I Move Into a Tiny Booth? And a lot of that was just because I was tired of trying to source furniture. At this point, I was ready to just do small vintage and collectibles and sell Fusion mineral paint. Personally, during these years, and if you're a parent, you're gonna understand exactly what I'm talking about. These are the years as a family where post-COVID, like all of the activities started back up. It was these late elementary, middle school, early junior high years, and our kids now had activities. They had friends they wanted to hang out with. They had things they wanted to go do. They had lives, but they can't facilitate their life, right? Because they can't drive themselves there. And so I was like living my life and like 3 other people's life. These were some of our busiest years. My business needed to be as flexible as it had ever been. That was another part of why I kept just kind of scaling down what I was doing locally and what I was doing physically. And I really, during this time, started putting a lot of my effort and attention into YouTube. These were the years that I filmed videos weekly. I was like trying to get as much of my business online as I could. And that's because online gave me the most flexibility, which is just what I needed to kind of make it work in this season with my family. During this season, I also closed down my Booth Seller Bootcamp course. It was taking a lot of kind of emotional effort from me. The course needed to be rebuilt, and I don't know. Again, I was just like, what do I really want to do? And I thought, maybe it's time to just kind of retire this and let this go. So that was another thing in 2022 and 2023 that got kind of cut out of my business. But the absolute biggest thing that happened in this season of refining and refocusing, in the summer of 2023, I decided that I did not want to ship paint online anymore. So by this time, I had had my online paint store for 7 years. I was selling some vintage from there, but like 85% was paint. A paint customer is different than a vintage customer. A paint customer is someone with a project, with a deadline. They want their items shipped same day, next day. So I was back to shipping all these orders from my garage. My employees were gone. I didn't have any help. And every morning it would take me 2 to 3 hours to pack and ship these orders. And then all afternoon, I'm managing emails, customer service emails. Something would leak or something would go missing. Or like we'd try to go out of town as a family. I can't close down my online store. There's no real way to do that. So I would like put a big pop-up that says, I'm on vacation. I'm not shipping anything. But inevitably, I'd still get 3 or 4 people that would order. And then they would email me frustrated because I wasn't shipping their stuff. 7 years of it, I said, I think this is just time. I'm ready to be done with this. It was probably a third of my monthly revenue, but it took probably 60% of my time every day. I was able to sell my online store to another existing Fusion Mineral Paint merchant, which was a huge blessing. And it worked out really well because I was able to make a little bit of money. I was able to sell that asset, and I had a place for my customers where they could continue to shop. And then I was able to help them kind of get their business up and going. But that meant that the end of 2023, like I had money coming in and it wasn't coming in anymore. It was a third of my revenue that was gone that I kind of had to figure out what to do. Okay, so the lessons from this season of time, refining and refocusing, is that it's completely okay if you reach your goal and you decide maybe it's not really what you wanted. It's okay to admit that your business needs to do different things at different times. That is the beauty of building your own business, is that it's your own. And you can make it fit what you needed to fit. You can make it work around your schedule and your time and what you want to put into it. Don't feel bad about adjusting things, and don't feel bad like if you achieve the goal and it's really not what you want, it's okay to pass on it. So that takes me to last year 2024. And if you're still watching this point in the video, bless you, you've been here for a while. I want you to know that next week I'm going to publish another video where I dive into my 2024 financials more for you. So be sure to come back and check that out. 2024, I'm going to call this the year of pivot and adjust. I start off 2024, I'm trying to figure out how to replace my revenue that I lost from my online paint store. I built a new online store, lostandfoundvintageshop.com, that's just antiques and collectibles, and I'm loving it. I'm having a great time. I had expanded my booth space a little bit, so I'm back to selling some more vintage and antiques and collectibles, and everything is, I need some more sales, but like it's working, like we're doing okay. Between YouTube and my blog and my local sales and my paint sales locally, and everything's kind of working. And then a tornado hits my mall in May. Again, there's a whole other video about that. My mall closed down suddenly, the mall across the street from me closed down, and another one down the road. All had to close down in a matter of 24 hours. And all of a sudden, I had no local retail. I had no place to sell Fusion Mineral Paint locally. I'm still selling it locally, just not online. I had no place to sell my old stuff. So I did participate in the Junk Ranch, and that gave me a little bit of boost for June, but then July, August, September, October, those months, I just had everything sitting in my garage. I was selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace because that was, the only place I could get it. I was trying to get more stuff into my online store. Not being able to sell the paint anywhere, like that was hard because like my local paint sales averaged around $1,500 a month out of my booth. And that just went poof up in the air. And again, like we're at a point now where I pay myself a monthly paycheck. I have for 7 years. It's in our family's budget. Like if I couldn't pay that, like it's like taking a salary cut. So I was able to scrape by. I was able to get enough together in other revenue. Some months were very close, but to continue keep myself in a paycheck. But I really had to adjust. I was able to move into 2 new booth spaces, but not until like November and December. Even then, they're not combined anymore. Now they're in 2 spaces, which is different. So that's what it was, you guys. It was pivoting and adjusting. The middle of 2024, I did decide to reopen the Booth Sellers Bootcamp. That was because I was getting, because of all these YouTube videos that I have out there, I was getting people asking about it and saying, Melanie, you talked about this course, where is it? I decided, I've been doing some coaching calls with people, and I'm like, I really do like helping people. I really do like giving them information that they can use to grow their business. I changed the way we do the course. I cut out the live coaching in Facebook that was kind of disappointing and not really working. I made the course completely self-paced. I updated some of the videos, and we rebuilt it in a new platform that's very easy to manage. It was kind of clunky before, and it was all done by email, and sometimes people didn't get the emails, and we just made it better. We relaunched that in I think October or September of 2024, and made it available again. So, had I not had all that time over the summer, maybe I wouldn't have worked on that. I don't know. Maybe I would have never gotten around to redoing that. That was 2024. It was pivoting and adjusting from a situation that I really had no control over at all. So the lessons from this past year, one obviously is, you have to be flexible. At some point in your business journey, you're probably going to get smacked up against, the side of your head by life. And it could be a natural disaster. It could be personal health problems, something in your family. You have to be able to adjust. You have to be able to kind of go, all right, well, let's pick this up and let's try something new. Another lesson is the value of multiple revenue streams. If my local booth was my only revenue stream, then I would have been out of business this summer. I'm year 13 and I've built these other things: YouTube, my blog, online, and through my social media, I could still sell some stuff. Junk Ranch, right? I was able to cobble together still enough to make it work because of my multiple revenue streams. And then also, and I think this may be the most important lesson for those of you that are just starting out. When you're building a business, you want to brand yourself and not just your product, not just what you're selling. If you've listened to this whole video, you've seen now that I've done a lot of different things. I started out pure vintage and antiques, and then I went real heavy into painted furniture, a lot of DIY and some crafts, workshops. I was doing custom cabinet upgrades for people for a while, several paint lines, and now I'm back to more vintage and antiques, and I'm doing some coaching. And if you brand yourself and not just what you're selling, you're able to have a lot of flexibility in what you're actually going to do to generate revenue in your business. So I've worked really, really hard in my social media and with my blog and other things that I have, to have people have a connection with me and with Lost and Found. And they may not be interested in everything that I do and everything that I offer, but because they follow me, they're open to considering it. And I even had this really interesting post on my Facebook page a couple weeks ago where I just acknowledged that. And I said, hey, I know a lot of you are here. You started following me because you bought paint from me online. And I'm not really talking about that much anymore. But I appreciate that you're still here. And I had some of the most encouraging comments from people. People say, you're absolutely right. That's how I found you, but I'm still here because I appreciate your creativity. I'm still here because I like that you're authentic. I'm still here because I've learned some stuff about vintage decor from you. If you're in this for the long haul, brand yourself, not just the products that you sell. If it's a paint line, don't let the paint line become what defines your business. If it's a specific antique mall you sell in, don't lock yourself so much to an antique mall that people know the mall more than they know you. So what's in it for 2025? Well, we're still pivoting and adjusting. I'm working on my new booth spaces, getting those going. I do have plans to work harder this year on my YouTube channel. Last year, YouTube was tough. Lots of reasons why. One of the biggest reasons was I didn't have a local booth space. And so it was hard making content because I wasn't going out and shopping. I lost a lot of views last year. It was discouraging. Videos that I did do that I thought were going to do well didn't do so well. And so I've got to go back to the drawing board, and I've got to work some more on YouTube this year. I also want to take some more picking road trips this year. I really want to get my local booth space amazing, and I'm going to have to go and get out of here to kind of do that. Exciting news. I have a trip planned in March to London with a friend to do just that. We're just kind of winging it, and we're going over to England. We're going to take an empty suitcase, and we're going to go to some flea markets in London and see what we can find. And yes, I will be filming it. And yes, I will be sharing those videos with you. I also plan on offering some more digital products this year. I have enjoyed having bootcamp available again for people. I've enjoyed the coaching calls that I've done with people. And I've got some other resources, things that I have built for my own business, things that I use for my own business that I plan on making available this year as additional kind of business help products. That's a goal that I have for 2025. Hey, so next week, like I said before, I'm going to dive further into 2024. I'm going to share with you my financials from this last year. Really, what did I make in 2024? I filmed this video first, and I hope that you made it all the way through here to the end, because I wanted to give you some context of where those numbers are for 2024. I wanted to help you see that, business kind of goes like this, and every year may look a little bit different. But I was really inspired by Andy from All Put Together. She filmed a video with what she made last year in her YouTube and reselling business. I thought that was very brave of her and very bold, and probably very, very helpful. It was really helpful to me. So I'm going to kind of follow her lead and do something similar, but I want to give her credit for the idea. So I hope that you join me back next week. If you're not a Lost and Found subscriber, please do subscribe. Please do drop a like on this video. It helps these videos get seen by more people. Put them out there on your Facebook feed. Share with your friends. Appreciate every time that you guys pass me along to somebody that you know. So I hope that you enjoyed today and that you learned something along the way. Would love to hear from you in the comments, and I'll see you guys next week.